Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another Eurythmics podcast. Rex Saldana here with my friend Mark Stevens. Mark, say hello.
Hello, Rex. Hey, I'm back.
Oh, all right.
Did you hear me?
Well,
Okay, all right.
today we have a special guest joining us on our podcast. He is an American musician notable for playing harmonica on the Eurythmics song Missionary Man and performing saxophone and harmonica with the band live. He's also played live as part of Rod Stewart's band and appears on Weird Al Yankovic's albums Weird Al in 3D, Dare to Be Stupid, and UHF, Original Motion Picture Soundtrack. As a studio musician, he's also played with Etta James, Tom Petty, Ziggy Marley, and Bon Jovi. He had an album called Musical Madness in the late 80s where he collaborated with Dr. Dre and ventured into hip-hop. He's released a number of studio albums, and he's collaborated with artists such as Rita Coolidge, Fergal Sharkey, Yes, Carole King, Etta James, Ringo Starr, and others. So we'd like to introduce him now in a very special way. So here we go.
This is Mr. Jimmy Z. Zavala on the harmonica and saxophone.
Okay. So by now you figured out our special guest is Jimmy Zavala, Jimmy Z. Zavala, who I believe all Eurythmics fans consider you part of the family, Jimmy.
Well, that's nice.
Mark and I were talking the other day about the Revenge Band. You know, it was one album and one tour that lasted quite a while. But the whole Revenge Band is so highly regarded among fans. We think of you guys as family, you know, all of you. In fact, when we started doing these podcasts, one of the things we got was, you need to do interviews with all the Eurythmics band members, or, you know, Revenge Band members. So I don't know if we can get everybody, but we're starting with you. Thank you for offering.
Wow. I'm sure you can. As just a real quick side note, I'm leaving for Paris next week, and me and Janice, the background singer, we're in touch. We're gonna have a lunch or dinner or something. And I haven't seen her since probably 30 years.
Yeah, she's
Really?
she talks to the fans a lot. We're in communication with her as well, so we hope to do a podcast with her.
I'm sure she'd be happy to do it. You know, and
Yeah,
all of them, I know Clem. They're all pretty easygoing people. You know.
Yeah.
Have you not seen Jonice since the Revenge tour and all that ended?
I might have seen her when I left the band to do my own stuff around when they did the next thing, 88. That's probably the last time I saw her. 88.
Wow. No, but Rex we're very serious when we say that we're can't quite put our finger on it exactly, but the Revenge Band is really special to fans, and I think we think of you very much as part of Eurythmics, not just as, you know, we recorded on an album and you tour. It's really a special years, I think, for fans. It really is, and it's just really great that you're here. We're really excited.
Well, that's nice to hear, because for me, you know, I didn't really know that much about him before I got with him, and then after, I don't know what it was either, but like, I know that band, and I played in a lot of really good bands, but that was a damn good band, and on top of it, we all recorded on that record, you know, which is rare too. You know, it was just like it was the universe. We all got in the same place at the same time from around the world and created that record. And then it was a great live band, because sometimes, you know, people are great in the studio and not that good live, maybe on stage, and vice versa. But that band covered both sides really good, you know, and it was, and we really loved each other. It was a fun group of people to be around. You know?
I believe Bruce Springsteen said it was the best live band he'd ever seen.
No way. Really?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Damn. I didn't even know he was in the audience.
That's high praise, is not right? So, but Jimmy, let me ask you. So your date, though, with Eurythmics' Destiny almost didn't happen, because in 1986, unlike today, we don't have a telephone or a phone or cell.
No.
You know, we don't, you know, it was different. We have a phone in our hand all the time now. But you missed a call from Mr. David Stewart Is that correct? And you almost missed your destiny. Is that not right?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I was running out of money in West Hollywood. I think I had been off the road with Tom Petty for about 8 months, and I was running my band in LA, 10-piece band, and I was out of dough, and I was sitting around the pool in my apartment in West Hollywood, and I heard the phone ring, and usually I'd run up and try and get it, and I said, I'll let the answering machine get it, those little old style things with a tiny tape. And then I get up there, I went up and I listened, and it was Dave Stewart, and I can't do his accent real good, but he goes, "Hello, Jimmy, I'm in my flat in Paris with Annie, and we were wondering if you could come to Paris and blow wind down bits of metal, And he goes, "My number is, I can't remember it. I'll call you back." Click. And I went, damn, and he didn't call back for a few weeks.
Oh, wow. It was a few weeks, huh?
I should have picked that phone up, but finally he did get back to me. And about a month later, I was flying over there with, may rest in peace, Phil Chin, the famous bass player from Rod Stewart and Jeff Beck and all that. So we flew over there together to work on Revenge. But I didn't know what it was going to be when.
So you didn't know a lot about it, except we want you to play with us on our.
I didn't know anything. Funny enough, what was going through my mind, I had like a big shopping cart full of saxophones and my harmonicas and equipment, and I remember, and then when we got to the airport, well, first me and Phil Chin got out. For some reason, we stopped in London for 2 hours, some silly layover, and we, you could get off the plane then. It was pre 9/11, obviously, but and then when we're getting back on the plane, the London security didn't like the looks of us. They thought we were drug dealers, so they pulled us aside and they made us take all our clothes off to our underwear, and we're sitting in these cold chairs, and we're going, "Look, we're not drug dealers, we're musicians, and we really got to make this flight." Long story short, they let us go finally, and we make it to Paris, and we go, "Great." And then the guy that was supposed to pick us up forgot about us, and we sat there for 4 or 5 hours, just nobody picking us up. And by the time he picked us up, he goes, "Well," it was about 5 p.m. He goes, you want to go to the hotel or to the studio?" And I looked at Phil, and we said, "Let's go to the studio." And I remember thinking, I want to Eurythmics, techno pop. I don't know what, thinking to myself, I don't wonder what this is going to be like, And when I remember, I'll never forget when I walked in the studio in Paris, Palais de Congrès, I think it was called. And it was like a party going on in that control room. There was people, drinking. There was a tequila bottle, drinking little Heinekens out of the Coke machine and smoking things. And the song they were working on sounded like AC/DC, it was like, "Don, don, 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 don," I'm going, "Yeah, Eurythmics," and then they said, "Phil, can you go play some bass on this song?" So right away, Phil's in there putting bass on this song, and I'm just kind of like sitting back, and we've been traveling 20 hours from LA to London, and to Paris, and I was sitting on the couch. I've been introduced to Annie. I knew Dave. I've been working with Dave, in LA on different records he's producing, like Feargal Sharkey and Stevie Nicks. Anyway, so I'm sitting on this couch at the end, and then Annie's in the end of this couch left, and she pops up in the Scottish accent and she goes, "All right, Jimmy Z, let's see what you can do," And I jump up, and I'm a little, jet lagged, drinking some stuff, and I said, "All right, yeah, sure." She goes, "Oh no, mate, you're tired, you're jet lagged." I said, "Well, put it up, come on." She goes, "Oh," and I go, "Oh," and I'm like, "Oh man, what have I done?" So it's like this immediate thing between me and Annie, squaring off. So I get a sound really quick with the French techs, and they roll the tape, and I just figured, I thought, okay, this is the intro, I'll do something here, and it goes on. I said, this seems like a solo here. I do a solo, and then it went on and on. They hadn't edited the song about 8 minutes, and I was getting cotton mouth, be honest with you, but I was going to power through it. I didn't want them to, stop and punch me in. So I finish it, right? And when you're a musician recording, sometimes the worst thing when you're looking in the control room is they say nothing. Usually they say, the talk back, they'll say, well, that was great. Play a little more here, a little less here. We're going to do it one more time. It's nothing. And then the second worst thing, or even the worst, Dave Stewart presses the button and goes, come on in. And that's kind of like, you're done, So I'm making that long walk, I'm going, oh, great. First thing I do, and it's, it sucks, And I get to the double doors, I open it, and it's a little step up, and the first person I see is Annie Lennox. She's looking down at me, and I said, no good, huh? She goes, fucking brilliant, mate. And I was going, whew. And so we listened to it, and that song was Missionary Man. And everyone's going, oh, that was cool, that was great. I said, okay, cool, Dave. Now I know the song, just let me go in and do it again. He goes, no, you're done, mate. I said, yeah, great. Okay, cool. Just one more pass and I'll be cool. He goes, you're done. And that was it. He wouldn't let me do it again. That was the first take.
Wow. So we actually are hearing the first take then on the album.
Yeah.
Wow.
The first and only take. That was it. And
well, I you know what I did? One time they were out doing some press or something, and this was later after I'd been in Paris for a month and a half or so, and I was there with John, the engineer, in the studio, just me and him, and I said, hey, can you get out that Eurythmics tape? He's going, I don't know if we should do that, man. I said, come on, there's some extra tracks, right? He goes, yeah, so we did. And I couldn't match it. I kind of did the same thing, but it just, the first one had the magic, and I think Dave might have used a little of that during his solo. There's a little thing where it's cross-faded some, and it sounds like of that other one I did, maybe he snuck a little in, but basically it's the first one. It's the first take,
So what we're hearing then is you go into the studio, they play something they've recorded. They've not even told you the name of it.
No.
And you play along.
Yeah.
And that's a very Dave Stewart thing. We've heard about him doing that before, I believe. When Stevie Wonder did the harmonica for There Must Be an Angel, he did it, and Dave tried to get him to do a second take. Dave tried to get him to do a second take. Stevie Wonder said, nope.
and I'd go with Stevie.
So
I wonder if Dave learned something from that experience and applied it to the next one. If the first take comes, stick with it.
It's funny enough that you bring up Must Have Been an Angel, because now me and Annie, we had this little thing going. You're like, okay, like one-upmanship, And then we went to this funky little rehearsal place in Paris, and I think Chucho, I don't know if Chucho was there yet. Maybe it was his first rehearsal. We were going to go check out this new bass player, Chucho Machan, and it was our first rehearsal, and she looks at me, okay, now we're going to Must Have Been an Angel. Let's see what you can do to this, Mr. Jimmy Z, do Stevie Wonder's thing. And I'm going, oh no, I don't know if it's going to work. These, I don't play chromatic. I play these, diatonic harmonicas. And I'm thinking, as the song's going, the harmonica doesn't come into the solo, right? And I'm trying to see which key's going to work. And I'm going, oh man, I don't know if this is going to work, And she's like, she's loving it, she's like, she can see me kind of sweating a bit. And we get to the part where the solo comes, and I just say, oh, screw it, I'll just go for it. And I'm going, as I'm playing, I'm going, oh, it'll work over these changes. And I blow it off, and I look, and she goes like that. She does one of those, I'm going. So we had that thing going from the very beginning. And that song, as I think turned out to be a real showcase for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly.
The whole revenge tour,
When you agreed to do the podcast, revisited some things and watched. Of course, I've seen the Eurythmics live video album and all that, but your performance at the Mandela concert,
yeah,
you just go on with you look like you were having a ball, but you're in 100,000 people, and of course Eurythmics played at Wembley many times, of course, but at that event, you really played that harmonica.
And that was one of those ones where you just knock it out of the park, and wow, what a coincidence! Like in front of 100,000 people, and I'm told went to 1 billion people worldwide that day because it was broadcast, and when people watched those things back then, yeah. And I look at that sometimes, and I'm going, how the hell did I do that? Because I didn't always play it that way. It was all, and that was a cool thing about Dave and Annie. They'd give me room to play, and they say, look, just finish the song whenever you want, And I can remember sometimes during that solo that I was thinking, well, I could end this. One more. I could tell the right spot where I was thinking that too, looking at it. But that one, the Revenge live thing we did in Sydney, that's a good solo and everything. But that one at Wembley was just like, I caught the magic on that one. It was just off the hook, and it was at the right time.
Totally like the magic with the first time. You were jet lagged, probably a little drunk, but you did it, and that's the way it came out, and it was perfection as far as I'm concerned. And
got
like
lucky.
I said, I mentioned before the podcast started that to this day that harmonica still gives me the chills. Really makes the song, as far as I'm concerned. Without that harmonica, it'd still be a great song, but wow.
Thank you. It's funny.
I don't know that I've ever heard one.
There's some female artists just doing a new release of Missionary Man, and I've had several friends. They just literally like texted me or emailed me with the link, and they're saying, I keep waiting for the harmonica intro.
Yeah, that's Ann Wilson.
I've heard a lot of versions. I know I'm a little biased maybe, but like I'm with an open mind going, oh, cool, I want to see their take on it. But there's nothing, and even the Eurythmics, I've seen different versions they've done since, but there's nothing that gets it the way we all got it that time. That group of people, not just because of my harmonica, but that original to me hasn't been topped yet.
And Jimmy, you go ahead, Rick. Sorry. Go ahead,
I was
Rick.
going to say the sound of that harmonica is so like guttural and like low and so I could go on and on about it, Jimmy. Clearly, but it's so, to me, it's so unique. It's so unique. Okay, I won't. I'm done with the harmonica.
Yeah, I go for that sound. I was lucky to get it because usually, I use my own amplifier, and nowadays there's pedals and things that we can use to get that without an amp. But back then, I was just at the mercy of whatever they had in the studio, and fortunately they had an amp I could kind of finagle a sound out of.
Do you want to? You've got your harmonica there. Do you want to?
Sure.
Is there magic today?
Let's see. We never know.
Okay, Jim.
Wow, thank you. That was awesome.
And then we go. I was born in the miserable.
Thank you so much.
No, I can. I've just had a private concert from Jimmy Z. I'm going to heaven.
We have a private concert, and now the rest of the world will get it too.
That is fantastic. Now, but
Jimmy reminds me a little bit of. You remember that? Sorry, Mark. The show, The Tube, the British show, The Tube. At the very beginning of the show, you and Dave are like sitting on some sidewalk, and he's playing, and you're blowing the harp like that, and it just sort of reminded me of that. Do you remember that thing that you
Yeah,
guys
you know,
filmed?
I've seen that recently. I think we were in LA. They came out. Did we do that in LA? I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there was a what was the girl's name that was the host? I think she was married to
Oh,
Bob
was that
Geldof.
Paula Yates? Paula Yates.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. I remember that. I remember seeing that, and I think that was definitely in LA. It looked like we were like in like the East LA part.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I do remember that. That was fun. Me and Dave, you know what? We did that around the world. There's one of us on YouTube somewhere. We're in a cab either in Tokyo, someplace in Japan, and we're in a back of a cab jamming. And someone's
Yeah, well,
filming
that's
us.
in the Brand New Day documentary film that was never released. So I think it's taken from
I always
that.
wondered what happened to that, you know, because they held me back. We were in Japan, and they asked if I would stay to do this film, and I was wondering if whatever happened. It was never released, huh?
No.
You know, it was shown in theaters very briefly. I know it played in LA for a few days back in the day, but other than that, it never came out on home video or anything. Well, there was I think like a French release on home video from the director's, like, you know,
So
label
you
or
can't
something.
ever. It's not anywhere where you can go see it now, or
No,
like
I
on
mean,
YouTube.
fans have copies of it that we've gotten from various sources, but yeah, there's no place you can really. I have
Yeah,
I
we
have a
were in
pristine copy if you'd like one.
Sure. Yeah, I never seen it because we did a lot of filming in Kyoto. I think they did a lot of
Yeah.
stuff there, and pretty cool city,
Yeah.
city of castles in Japan. And I like I said, I do some things, and I just go, I never saw that. I never heard that.
Yeah. That
Well,
must be interesting.
such is life. We keep moving on in life. We forget these things. It doesn't fit sometimes.
Yeah.
But on the Revenge album, Jimmy, you recorded on 7 of the 10 tracks, if I'm correct, either
Yes, sir.
harmonica or saxophone. Yeah, you and not just Missionary Man are really great things on what you did. Thorn in My Side, fantastic. When Tomorrow Comes.
Thank you.
A lot of these, these songs are without what you did, without some of Jonice's vocals. Revenge is a totally different album without you all, and you all really did come together. And I think that was Dave and Annie's concept, that they wanted it to be an album of a band that had that sound. It was their concept, I believe. Am I correct?
Yeah. Well, I don't know because I wasn't privy to those kind of decisions, but it kind of came out that way. I think once I got there, the story I heard later was they did the basic tracks in Germany at Connie Plank studio somewhere in Cologne maybe, and then they were on a train to Paris to do the finishes stuff, and I guess they'd tried another sax player, a girl, and for some reason I don't know why it didn't work out. And then the legend has it, Dave says to Annie, well, I know about this guy in LA, but he's a little crazy. And but we could try, so I guess they were looking for a sax player. They really weren't looking for a harmonica player. So as usual, Rod Stewart wasn't looking for a harp player. He was looking for a sax player, but it all worked out. But so when I got there, I guess they weren't even thinking harp on Missionary Man, but that was the first thing I did. And then you brought up, what was the one, there was Thorn in My Side. That was definitely my first real experience working really deep with Annie, because I came up with some things, but on that song, she really directed me what she wanted, and I would do what she wanted, and then I would add an embellishment of my own. But that's definitely me and Annie working it out, and it was like it was real eye opening for me because I didn't realize what a great. I knew she's a great singer, but she plays, she's a well trained musician, pianist, and big ears, great ideas. And so, Dave is a mastermind, but Annie's right in there too. They're both like right in. And it was great working with them. So then I would just be there and have all my toys, and then they'd just say it. And then for them to find Janice was just like golden, you know, just she's phenomenal, you know, and on stage too. I mean, it's like she's just great, and off stage she's a great lady, you know, and those two, I think of it to this day, just those two voices on the tour. I don't ever remember them hitting one clunker, one, you know, bad note, and that's hard being a singer. I'm a little bit of a singer, you know, I lead groups, but like singing's hard. You can't go out drinking and smoking with the boys, you know, you got to take care of your voice and all that, you know, but they were great. They're amazing. And plus what I was trying to say is, to me, it sounded like more than two people sometimes, you know, the way they did it, you know, if you listen to all those parts they were doing, and man, what two voices that just blended perfectly and sounded really good together.
Yeah, that and I think it comes back to how much fans enjoyed that whole concept and that whole tour. But Jonice and Annie just were perfect together. Their voices melded together perfectly.
Yeah, and as far as what you're saying, their concept, I think you're probably right, but I think the concept developed as people like Janice and myself and Pat and people around them were there. They'd inspire them, saying, "Oh, we got this. Let's try that. That's that's the way Dave is anyway." He goes, "Oh, wow, that's a great sound. Just try this here." You know, I wouldn't have thought like, what's that thing? It's gonna be the last time. I think it is.
Yeah.
And he had me doing some kind of chugging thing on a harmonica that I wouldn't have thought of, but it was really cool. You know, if you listen to that, you can hear the harp going like this, like a.
Yeah.
But lower, and I think it's in D.
Yeah.
Isn't there also a bit of that at the end of Thorn in My Side when she's at the very end where she's going to run away from you, and you can hear the kind of the chugging in the background a little bit too.
Maybe, yeah, probably, you know.
Well, I take it that, like you said, Dave and Annie, if you all came up with something good, if you all they wanted you all to shine just as much.
Yeah.
You can tell that, especially on the concerts.
Totally, man.
They brought you all up to the front. It wasn't Annie in the front all the time and Dave. They brought all of you up front. They wanted people to see you, to hear you. Right? Am I right?
All of us. Yeah, you're totally on the money there. Like, they were totally generous with all of us. I mean, for sure, I got a lot of the solo time and all throughout the show, but like, you know, Chucho would get his moment to shine, like in solo, and Clem and Pat and Janice just shine all the time. She's amazing, you know, that voice, you know, and her, the way she's so animated, you know, doing really cool little things. Yeah, I love watching her.
Yeah, I remember her doing like twirling around, and
yeah, you know,
there was at one point where her and Andy were dancing together, and
I know, you know, somebody put up, or maybe I did it. It was I hadn't seen it for a long time. It was from that show down in Sydney, Australia. It was When Tomorrow Comes. I do a long sax solo, and they're all dancing around me and doing stuff, and I'm so into it. I didn't even know. I didn't realize they were having such a good party around me. Because I'm in my own little world. People go, "You should have had a clip-on mic, you know, like so I could dance around." And I just tell people, you know what, you all dance around. I'm gonna play. You know, I'm not really into moving around with harp. No problem. It's another thing. You know, but I'm okay just getting a mic and just getting into playing sax. You know, letting the music do the talking. But that was fun. To me, I was cracking up watching them all dancing around me.
Yeah,
you know?
There's a great scene in that video, that concert that you all recorded, where Annie takes your microphone and moves you up to the very front, but you have to go with her because she takes your microphone.
I know.
She takes you up to the front.
I know, and I didn't like that day, honestly. I was going, oh man, because for me, I mean, a lot of sax players are really much better than me at like moving or doing this. I like to like get in a position right when I know that I'm comfortable and I can pull off certain things, fingering. Because if I go like this, I can't do something that it doesn't work for me sometimes. And then I don't know where she's going to be, and I got to kind of go to that mic, because she's going like this with the mic, holding it like beat me off with a broom or something. And yeah, you're right. I had to go with her.
Yeah. Well,
But,
I take it, Jimmy, you do not say no to Annie Lennox.
Nope, not too often.
So tell us what is it like working for Dave Stewart and Annie Lennox, each one? I mean, tell us a little bit about that. I mean, I know you've been doing that, but kind of on a personal level, what was that like?
Well, Dave, he's eccentric and he'll pop up with a weird joke here and there, weird or take on something, He's funny. He was always,
Well, Jimmy, you did say a moment ago that Dave said, I don't know, I've heard about this guy, Jimmy, but he's a little crazy. So I'm thinking, if Dave Stewart says you're a little crazy, what does that say about you, Jimmy?
And I'll take it one step further back. When I was playing with Tom Petty, and that's when they wrote that song together, Don't Come Around Here No More. Mm-hmm. And Dave Stewart co-wrote and produced that track for Tom. And when I was on tour with Tom came up to me one time, he says, I got this guy, Dave Stewart, coming out. He's crazy like you. You guys gonna hit it off. And I was thinking, what the fuck's he talking about? I'm crazy. I don't know, but he was right. We did hit it off. And
I think you did his voice really well, Tom's voice.
So it goes kind of like back to that, and then me and Dave, we had a silly sense of humor, take on life and cracking up about stupid stuff. And as far as Annie, I don't know if you guys remember Foghorn Leghorn, the big rooster kind of guy, the cartoon.
Right.
He's like, so I said, son, he's like a Southern guy, but it's a big old kind of rooster.
Right.
And,
yeah.
And there was
the old Bugs Bunny.
Right? Yeah, exactly. There's one character in some of his cartoons was a chicken hawk. There's a little bitty chicken hawk, but he wasn't full grown, but he was like, I'm a chicken hawk, and that kind of reminded me of Annie. Annie was like, we're going to do it this way. She was like a little general, and she's like, you didn't want to, I remember this is, don't get me wrong, man. She was like no little chicken hawk, as far as like, she was a powerful woman. But like one time, Dave, I think we were in LA getting ready to do a concert at the Greek Theater, and we're all on this, we could call it the celebrity van, getting out in the van to go to do the concert. And we're outside the hotel, and Dave had been doing like work with Mick Jagger and Daryl Hall, writing stuff for movies and things, and things away from Eurythmics. And Annie was getting pissed. She was getting pissed off about him not concentrating on the Eurythmics. And I remember one time she got on the, I'm already on the bus or whatever, and I look up and she gets on the thing and she's muttering, just walking down the aisle to the back, going, "Oh damn it, we worked for years to get Eurythmics to this thing, and he's fucking off with all these other fucking little projects," and muttering shit like that, going down the aisle and going, "Ooh, is he in trouble today?" But he was always so, "Oh, it's okay," he's got that like, don't worry, everything's gonna be okay, But she used to get kind of like a little bit perturbed about things like that.
I can understand that. I can also understand where he's coming from too. But I'm sure they always came together when they had to. And like you were just saying, if she said, "Dave, what are you doing?" He's probably like, "Oh, okay." So.
Well, he wasn't like that. He'd be going, "It's okay. Everything's going to be all right."
In the end, they knew where the priority was, huh?
Yeah, but they worked it out for sure. But she was like I said from the beginning, we always had a little thing, like she's tried to get me in some situation I couldn't get out of, maybe like do that solo on Must Have Been an Angel or something, And one time, what were we doing? Shoot, man, I just lost it. I'm sorry. It'll come back to me. And I lost the train of thought there. But she was fun. She would like, she'd always like trying to push you, to do something, get better, but kind of like challenge is the better word,
Would you work with them again?
Oh, in a heartbeat. Yeah, no problem.
In a heartbeat. So were there songs that you didn't perform that you kind of ever did? I don't know, put you on the spot on that, but you kind of think, I wish we'd done, maybe one of their other songs that they didn't do live or some cover, something, anything you wanted to do with them that you didn't, or was it all?
Because it was all new to me. And I was amazed at so many good songs, like It's All Right, Baby's Coming Back. And, they're all fun. And the ones I did know about, but I'd never played, like, Sisters Are Doing It for Themselves, Would I Lie to You? I didn't know about Sex Crimes or 1984, all kinds of songs I'd never even heard. They're fun, And then plus they turned me loose on like Here Comes the Rain Again. And he would say, put some sax in this intro, or something, that never had sax before, so I got to embellish songs that had never had sax or harp sometimes, and in my experience, like say I played 5 years with Rod Stewart. We did 5-6 records. You maybe played this hit single, maybe one other song from the record you have out, on tour. But with that Revenge tour, we did a lot of the songs from that record. We did Let's Go, When Tomorrow Comes, what's the other one? Thorn on My Side, Missionary Man,
Miracle of Love.
Miracle of Love. There's 5, maybe more, but that's
Last
5
Time.
on a record. What was that one?
The last time you did that one. The last time.
Yeah.
So
it's
like you did the whole
a
first
lot.
side plus the second, plus the first song from the second side.
That's rare. That's rare. And that just goes to show how many good songs are on that record. And I'm very proud of that record, and the Miracle of Love. I just love that, I love that song.
That reminds me, Jimmy, I listened to another podcast, not our podcast, but another podcast that was specifically about the Revenge album, and the two hosts on that, and they were doing it is it a classic? I think the idea of the podcast, is it a classic rock album? But man, they had good things they loved the album, they did, but they had good things to say about you. They just thought you were the bomb. You were fantastic. And they did also mention Jonice Jameson. So Jimmy and Jonice. Let me ask you real quick. In the tour book, there's a section and it says, talks about the Revenge Band, and it says expect album soon. Okay, there was never an album. Was it ever discussed? Was there going to be one? Whatever happened to that?
I guess it got lost in the shuffle, the priority is definitely Eurythmics, and then I went off. I got my own record deals around 88, I signed with IRS, and then I did something else. I went with Richard Marx for a little while, and then I got with Dr. Dre, I hooked up with him, recording on a bunch of NWA and Ruthless Records artists, and then they signed me to a deal. So that kind of, just life went on. It would have been cool to do, but
this is a good time to talk about the collaboration with Dre and NWA. That was really groundbreaking, Jimmy. And so I know you've mentioned that you got some pushback from the rock establishment at the time. You want to talk a little bit about like the perceptions then versus now that it's all changed so much? You do it now and it's just commonplace and expected. But yeah. So,
the way I can describe it, because it was almost like I was feeling like say when I was a kid and I was digging the Stones and Beatles or something, and my parents were going, turn that crap down, and and you just could feel like, I know my mom liked Tony Bennett and Bobby Darin, and I like them too still, but like, it was our generation, our stuff. And then I was feeling with my peers that I played, I played pretty much in the rock world with, Rod Stewart, Petty, Yes, and Eurythmics, and that it was like, wow, I'm at this moment where I'm looking at my own people my age are acting like my parents. How weird is this? Like I'm with the new kids, and rap still gets pretty fucking high emotions from certain people and corners of the spectrum of music lovers or not lovers, hip hop, rap, whatever you want to call it. And especially at that time, NWA, they were like really pushing the envelope in different ways. But when I got with them, I met them on a person. They came to see my show. I was playing at this club called the China Club in Hollywood. And my manager, Gary Ballin, was their road manager. And his cousin was Jerry Heller. I don't know if you know the story of that whole thing, but Jerry, if you ever seen that movie, Straight Outta Compton? Anyway,
yes.
It's like
Years ago.
The timeline in that movie is when I was there, like from 89 to in the mid 90s, up to Easy's death. And it was like, I wasn't in the movie, but I was there when Suge Knight started hanging around. And, but like before Suge, I worked for about 2 years, almost every day with Dre in the studio on different projects, and then when I got signed to the label and he was producing my record, and I was getting him to bring in live guys, just try different things, pushing them as I do. I always try to say, instead of doing a sample, let's get, I got some guys that can do that, or let's try that, which he was doing a little bit himself anyway. It wasn't all just me saying it, but I pushed him further. And then when and that album, when it came out, I don't know if you ever seen the first song we wrote together was called Funky Flute. And I'm not really a flute player. I can play flute okay, but of course, when we wrote, I went to his home to write songs the first time. I had all my saxes out and flute and harmonicas all over the floor, and he points at the flute. He goes, let's write something with that. I'm going, great, a fucking flute. So we write this song, and it turns out to be the first single, Funky Flute, and we do a video. I don't know if you've ever seen the video. It's pretty funny.
No, but I'll check it out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's really good. I put it up, like, in the Super Bowl, Dre produced the halftime show, right?
Yeah.
With Mary K. Blige and Snoop Dogg. So I've seen, it's a good time to send out a link. I can send you the link. It's on YouTube, Funky Flute, featuring Dr. Dre. It's on my website. And I after the halftime show, which, billions of people watched around the world, I put it out there. Well, it was good to see my old pal Dre getting his due at the Super Bowl. Here's something we did back from my record that he produced. And we wrote, this is the first song we wrote together. And man, you can't believe it. They were Rod Stewart 5 years. People go, who? These kids anyway, 40-year-old people. Tom Petty, who? Eurythmics, who? Dr. Dre, get out of here, man. I go on the golf course now, and all these you guys my age are going, you were with Dre? Jesus Christ. Where do you see this? Where do you see this video? It's me, Easy, and Dre with 3 really beautiful dancers and 3 beautiful models, and funny little vignettes. It's pretty funny. Wow. But Dre was, to me, he's from the word go, man. He's like, I wouldn't. He's genius, in his own way, But he got ears like this, had no training. I think he's been taking some little piano lessons now, but he didn't need it. He could hear things, even if he couldn't play it. He would get it out of you, or out of whoever was in the session, and he would like noodle around a keyboard and get what he wanted, and of course he knew how to sample and scratch and do all that stuff, that innovative stuff. And he's funny as hell. I mean, he comes off, with this image of being all tough and everything, you know. I'll send you some pictures of me and him in restaurants and stuff, yucking it up, looking like, you know, with gaucho hats on and looking stupid, you know.
Okay.
We had so much fun. We laughed so much making that record, you know. But unfortunately, you know, business came down in between it all. And it was nothing to do with me and him, just like Easy was not paying him enough. And then Suge Knight came in at the right time to talk him into starting Death Row Records. So Suge Knight started hanging out at the studio right when we were mixing my record. And I knew when this big guy came, all work was going to shut down. I got, damn. We'd mixed 3 songs and we had about 8 more to go. And then I ended up having to finish the record myself without Dre because the shit hit the fan, and Suge Knight and them, they kidnapped Easy, threatened him with the baseball bat to, you know, release Dre, and you know, went into lawyers' offices, and it was fucking heavy. It was some heavy stuff. I remember going into the studio and Donovan, the studio owner, says, "Dre told me you ain't working today." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "That's what he said." I said, "Well, where is he?" He goes, "I don't know." He said, "I don't know. He's somewhere." I said, "Well, can I reach him?" Because, like you said, this is before cell phones. This is before, you know. Yeah. I went around the world 15 times without a cell phone, man. I don't know how the fuck I did that shit.
Yeah, how
driving
did you
on the road in South Africa and Australia, you know, just, and Mandela was still in prison. You know, we did some crazy stuff. Got through it. But anyway, so like I get a hold of Dre and I said, "What's up?" And he goes, "Well, we're going to have to take a couple weeks off." You know, I said, "Oh man, come on. We're almost done with this thing." And he goes, you know, I said, "Where are you, man? Come on, Dre, come on. We got to talk." And he goes, so he gives me an address of this apartment that he's at. It's in West LA. And I get to the apartment and it's like, you know, they're on the phones and it's an empty apartment. There's no furniture in there or something. Like they just rented it just to have it that day or something. And just crazy stuff was going down. And I'm just going, oh man, this is going to end up on the 11 o'clock news, you know. You know, when Suge Knight would come in, you know, and I get along with Suge. For some reason Suge liked me, you know, but like you know, this guy is a big gangster, man. I mean, he was a huge man, is a huge man. I didn't know him from Adam, you know, but like, and usually I was the lone white face in the whole crowd anyway. So I just kind of listen and just listen, not to add too much, you know, to the conversation. And he'd be talking about, like, joking about driving down to the studio. We were in Torrance, which is like the South Bay here in LA. Like, say he's coming from wherever, Compton or something. He's on the 405 freeway and he's joking about, you know, seeing some pretty girl in the passenger seat of a vet or something. And then the driver of that, the boyfriend or whatever, husband, flips him off. And then he gets a gun and goes, bam, 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 bam. And I'm like going, okay, I don't want to hear no more of this. I'm going to hear this on 11 o'clock news, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, like it was heavy, you know. I was like, I don't want to know what these guys are doing.
So a lot of that stuff is real then. It's not just an image.
The first time I got in that studio to go work with Dre, the studio owner, there's a white guy, Donovan the dirt biker. He said, "Okay, you got to give me a piece." And I said, "My what?" He goes, "Come on." I said, "Peace." He didn't think it was funny. I said, "Look at man, all I'm packing is my saxophones and harmonicas, man." He goes, "All right, well, the rule is if you do, you got to check it here at the desk." So, you know, one time I looked at there's all kinds of guns and shit there. You know, he was really serious about that rule, you know. But one time I saw, so then we did my record, and then, you know, it goes to going, Funky Flute's getting added to all these radio stations, and man, we're on the, you know, I was Ruthless / Atco, Atlantic Records, big label, and we did the WIA convention. Man, Ahmet Erdogan, you know, we're part of Atlantic Records. He was loving it. Bill Graham was in the first row. We did a live show to track, but I played live, and they were all digging. We were like flying around on a Time Warner jet. Everything was going, and then And then there's Sylvia Rohn. She was the first black lady to be head of a major label. She's head of RCA. RCA merged with Atco, which basically meant all the people who working my record at Atco got fired. So it's like the plug was pulled. It was just a matter of time until I got let go. And probably just as well. I was living pretty crazy then. I'd probably be dead, you know, if things went the way we thought they were going to go.
Well, Jimmy, I mean, you talk about two juxtapositions. You go from Dave Stewart and Annie Lennox, which I don't think was just completely normal, and to this next life. So you've had a very interesting musical career, and you said something a minute ago about, and you were talking about Dre, and you talked about Dave and Annie, and you talked about, you know, how they could just hear what they wanted. They sensed what. But don't you think that they also got that from you as well, that they knew that you had that same sort of magic inside you? That's why they gravitated towards you.
That's fair, I suppose. And it's like they have you there because you know you're going to bring something that they didn't think of. And the good thing about, like, whether it's a Dave and Annie or a Dre, is they'll go, oh, they know what you're capable of doing, and then we might do something that they hadn't thought of in that, but they think about what you just did and putting it over in this part, or doing it, or even a whole nother song with what you did. You know, that's the great thing about being together in the studio that sometimes I miss. As you see, where I'm at here, I record right here where most of the stuff, especially during the pandemic, people send me their files and I record here. So sometimes I'll put in 6 hours on a song that, like with Missionary Man, I got done in 8 minutes. Because I'm nitpicking and anal about something where if someone was on the other side going, they'd say, you're done. That's perfect. You know, and I'm going, it could be better, you know, or something, you know. It's good being able to collaborate, you know, not just in writing, but in, you know, writing and producing and playing for someone in a studio environment, you know, where it's like give and take, push and pull and all that. I miss that. But you're right. It comes from both sides, you know. That's why, I mean, I tell some people, you know, when they ask me about doing recording sessions and being nervous and things, I said, it's okay, you know, be a little nervous or something, but just remember this. They want, whoever called you, the artist, producer, they want you to succeed. Because, you know, otherwise they got to get someone else to do it, or they're going to like start doubting that they're making the right decisions, you know. And then if you bring something, maybe it's not exactly what they wanted, but maybe it's better. It's different. It's you know, you don't have to worry about giving them exactly what you want. Just give them what you got, and then go from there. And then sometimes the people that keep pushing to get something that you can't get at, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
You know,
but I imagine that whole process is so.
People all had that experience. You know, you get to a point where people are, you know. Can I tell you one real quick story about sessions?
Sure.
Steve Stills. You've heard of Stephen Stills, right?
Yes.
Okay. I get called. I actually played in this band for a little while, you know, and this is after I'd done that. And I get the session was at his house, you know, and Russ Kunkel was producing it, a great drummer, famous drummer, and Joe Vitale, another famous drummer, played with Joe Walsh. They're there, and I think it was for The Crossing Guard or something, maybe a movie with Sean Penn. But anyway, I get there and they say, "Well, Steve just went to dinner, but if you don't mind, you can record some harp, and then, you know, when he gets there, we'll either do some more or we'll like what you did." I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So I did it. I played a few things, and I said, "That's great." So Steve comes in. He doesn't remember me, you know. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, I said, "Hey, yeah." He goes, and he hears about 2 seconds of what end of something I'd done. He goes, "Oh, no, that's all wrong. That's all wrong." So we get into it, and we go about minimum an hour of me playing over and over and over this song. and it's just not working. He ain't digging nothing, you know. And then for some reason, Keltner or one of those guys, Joe Vitale, they played the song, and my harmonica's going on it, and Steve goes, wait, play that back. What the hell's that? That's perfect. Russ Cohen goes, Steve, that was the first thing Jimmy played.
Okay.
He's going, oh, well, should have played that for me first. You know? We had, but we didn't say that. You know, it's like, yeah, you're right. We should have played that for you.
And I imagine that kind of thing happens a lot, right? Where you may have already done something the right way and you don't realize, or you go back to it.
It can happen, you know. You don't realize, even with myself. That's why I keep the first takes always. And I tell people when I get there, I said, you know what? Roll tape, even though it's not tape anymore, it's digital, it's Pro Tools or whatever. But I'll say, you know what? And I make a joke out of it, but it's kind of not a joke. I said, look, record the first stuff I do because it doesn't get any better. but it's true. I talked to a lot of other guys and ladies that, you know, sometimes the first ones, it's the magic because we're not thinking about it so much. It's what's really in us, and it's just the natural thing. Because once you've done it and then you hear it, you go, oh, that was it. But you try to maybe get back there or maybe try to make it better, whatever, quote unquote. And you don't get that. It's the first initial thing that through your soul, your mind, your body that hits you, you know, from this music. There's these chords, these set of chords and changes and whatever mood, beat. And that is the real thing. And hopefully it's what fits the song, but that is the real thing that you're feeling at that moment. And it's like, it's kind of lost on people sometimes. You can beat something to death, you know, don't get the real essence.
I love that, Jimmy. I think, and I think that's what you've done. I mean, and Missionary Man went on to win Eurythmics their first Grammy Award. I mean, their first Grammy came for Missionary Man.
You know, I was not aware of that until I think you guys said that or something. I didn't even know we won a Grammy.
Yeah. They've been in, yeah. Are you supposed to get one of those?
That's my question. Where's my Grammy?
That I don't know. Call the Grammy Museum and say what's going on. But they did win a Grammy. But
I think that's for Dave and Annie.
Well, I don't know. But maybe other people. I'm not sure. But
maybe it's on eBay.
We'll check that out. But you know, Dave's talked a lot about that over the years, not just about revenge. About, you know, sometimes the first thing they did was the best thing. You know, maybe not always. But let me ask you about that 8-minute version of Missionary Man that you played. Was that an actual recording of the song, or was that different pieces all just jumbled together?
No, it was the recording. It was just like a long outro, like it just kept going dun 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 dun, like for about 3 or 4 minutes. You know, that you really wouldn't have keep for a single or something. You know what I mean? There wasn't a whole bunch of other stuff going on. The song, I think they obviously they did it the way it should be done. You know, I don't even know if does the original just fade out, or is there an ending?
It does fade. It does fade.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just like, you know, they just kept playing it, you know, and I didn't stop. I was like going, you know, getting cotton mouth from smoking hash or something, and I, you know, I don't know. I was feeling real macho. I said, I'm not going to stop, man. And I think I blew them away. That I just kept blowing like that for 6-8 minutes, maybe.
Well, I tell you, I wouldn't mind, you know, some special release someday. You know how they have the extra tracks. I wouldn't mind to have that 8-minute.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
That'd be killer. That'd be killer.
Yeah, I would like that. There's a few other songs that never got on there too. They wrote a lot. They're pretty prolific, you know.
Yeah, we know there's a lot in the vault we haven't heard. We're hoping that some of that will be released someday.
Yeah, you know, I can't remember now, but I remember there was stuff left over, and it's a lot with Rod too. Sometimes with Rod Stewart, we'd record 32 songs, but only, 10, 11 would go on. There were actually vinyl records in. Well, they're back, but you can only fit so many on a vinyl. Then the CDs came, you could fit more, but they wouldn't put 30 songs on it.
Speaking of CDs, when Revenge came out, that was right around when CDs were becoming big, and it was actually the first Eurythmics CD I ever bought. Well, actually, I bought the LP, then later the CD, but I distinctly remember in the Rolling Stone review of the album, which was not the greatest review, and to this day still pisses me off, but that's another story. But they mention how your saxophone on Thorn in My Side just sounds like it's in the air. And it's a compliment. It sounds like it's in the air, just hanging there. And I thought that was such a perfect description, because when you listen to it, it does have that feel of it, like it's hanging, like it's right there hanging in front of you. And you mentioned earlier that Annie was kind of like, coaxing you or helping you to draw that out on Thorn in My Side. Was that one of her ideas, to have that kind of a sound, kind of buoyant, kind of?
That part was, as far as what I played, that's me and Annie, like that one part. We worked that out together. She's like saying that, and then I'd go, I would add my little thing, but it's definitely a collaboration. For the sound, when you get the mix and everything, that's Dave Stewart. How the sax sounds in the mix and whatever, how he's putting it in the mix, whatever effect or not effect he's put on it. That's Dave Stewart.
Okay.
I gotta give credit.
It sounds cool, and I think I was wrong earlier when I said there was some harp at the end of that. I think it was your saxophone doing that kind of and kind of fading as the song ends. So yeah, that's
So that, Annie would be there and mix during mixes, but that was kind of Dave's territory, and still is. He's really good at that kind of stuff,
Speaking of recording, you all, or Dave and Annie, I don't know what it was with you all, but they stopped in Houston, Texas, and did a remix to Thorn in My Side, the 12-inch stuff. Were you all involved in that at all?
When did they do that?
Do what?
They did that while we were doing the Revenge tour?
Yeah, in Houston, Texas, on the Revenge tour, and they stopped, or they went to some studio there, and they worked on their 12-inch remix of Thorn in My Side. It was a different mix. I didn't know if you all were involved with that.
At the bar or something.
I know you were at the bar.
I have no memory of that at all. They probably didn't need us if it was a remix. Because what they do, in my experience with remixes, not just with them and other people, sometimes they don't even take the stuff they used to give them to DJs back then. Like say with my record with Dre, we'd have Funky Flute. They give a DJ all the tracks, and they'd come up with their own thing, use some of what is on the original, and sometimes put in all kinds of new stuff that wasn't even there. Right. So Dave wouldn't need us for a remix, or Annie. They had everything they needed, and if they didn't, they would tell us, "I need you to record something." But I don't remember. I have no recollection, which does not mean it didn't happen.
Okay. Let me ask you just real quickly then about the Revenge tour itself. And it was such a long tour, their longest tour by far. What you must have been exhausted. You must have been exhilarated. What was it like when all that was going on? And what was it like when it all came to an end and that giant world tour was over? What was all that like for you?
Well, I remember, because we were just kind of working it out. We were almost amazingly together because we did these first few shows. Our first live shows were in LA. I think we played at small shows that were kind of leaked out at the last minute. So they're like at the Roxy, which is a small club in the Sunset Strip, and then at a bigger place out in the Valley, the Country Club at the time. And I've seen those footage of those, and man, we were pretty together already, but then as we went on, we became so good and tight, and came up with, as it happens when you play shows over a long period of time and big audiences, you come up with little bits that you didn't think of, and little musical bits, maybe other things that you do together as a show. And those things are cool. But I remember the first that when we went to Europe, like in the fall, maybe late summer, fall, that was like 13 weeks. I kind of maybe knew it was going to be 13 weeks, but I don't think I'd ever been on tour that long with Rod or anybody. We do maybe 6-8 weeks, then come back take a break for 2 weeks, then go back out again or something. That was long because we went all the way to Christmas. I remember doing a makeup date in Sweden right before we were going to take our Christmas break, and it was like freezing, you know. And we played all those Princess Trust things in London, and I think it was in early December. So we've been out, and you could I remember I was so cold in London, I didn't even go out of my room for a while. You know, I tried to go out, but it was just really nasty that winter in '86. Yeah, end of '86.
That's where you got to meet Princess
I remember
Diana.
being really pretty beat up at that. And plus, it wasn't just playing. We were running hard. We were young, and we were partying. We were young and dumb.
Yeah, we know how that is.
And I remember Annie lost her voice one time. We were on that leg. We just happened to be in Amsterdam at the Sonesta Hotel, and she had to take a break for her vocal cords for 3 weeks. So that about killed me. Because right next to that Sonesta Hotel was what are those places called? The Bullfrog or Bull something, where they sell, cannabis and all kinds of other stuff. And we were there with the crew, another danger. For 3 weeks, we were in Amsterdam. Oh man, I think I lost my voice after that.
And now California's like Amsterdam.
Yeah, and I don't do none of that stuff anymore. I have a glass of wine, beer once in a while, but I left all that behind, But we had fun while we could. But then when we say we took we got done with that, we take a break, and then we went straight to Australia for 8 weeks, because then it's summer down there. So you got to get down there in January. So we had a little Christmas break, and then boom, we're back in New Zealand for 2 weeks, Australia for 6, and they were huge. Eurythmics were big, and we were playing like 100,000 people, and it wasn't even a festival. It was just them. Yeah. And then we do 18 straight days at the Sydney Entertainment Center. That's where we recorded that. And
yes, recorded on February 14th, 1987, which, by the way, is my birthday. So thank you for having me on my birthday.
Mine's February 7th, man. And I'll tell you a little funny thing. We get that. We all arrive in Australia, and we're in the van coming from the airport, and they hand out our itineraries. We're all looking through it, thumbing through it, and it gets to my birthday on the 7th, and it's a day off, and it has in big letters, Jimmy Z's birthday, meet at the pier, and even Annie and Dave, they look back and go, what the hell, how does this guy rate? And I'm like, I don't know. So apparently the promoters are the same ones when I'd been to Australia a couple times before with Rod Stewart, that we knew each other, but I didn't know it was them. So they planned out they had a big houseboat, three decks restaurant, and we went out in Sydney Harbor that day, and it was really fun. But
is that where that picture is taken of all of you?
Hello, my brother, man.
There's a photograph of all of you on a boat somewhere. Annie's wearing a bikini, and you're there. Yeah. Was that the one on Sydney Harbor?
Yeah, and there's a cake.
Oh, wow.
Me and Annie. Yeah, that's my birthday cake. Yeah, and there's some pictures of me and Dave. You see the Sydney Opera House in the background. That's it. That was that day. Yeah, that was a week before we recorded, I guess.
So now, if Dave and Annie were still touring, and they're not, unfortunately, we all would love them to be. If they were still touring and they called you up tomorrow and said, hey, Jimmy, we want you to go out on tour, would you do it?
Hell yeah.
I thought I knew the answer to that. And of course, we should mention here on the podcast that Eurythmics are nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we're encouraging people to vote. They're number 5 in the fan vote, which is important because you get an extra vote if you end up in the top 5. And so we're still doing that. And we
Who
should
else votes besides fans?
Well, there's about 1,200 people that actually cast votes. They're past honorees, musicians of a certain point, and I'm sure producers and people in the music business. But about 1,200 people cast votes for the Hall of Fame. I do not know who they all are, so that's exciting. But we should also say that Dave and Annie are finally being inducted at the 51st Songwriters Hall of Fame, June 16th, 2022 in New York City. That's delayed by 2 years because of COVID, as COVID has done to everything. But Dave and Annie are getting into that Hall of Fame for sure this year. We're hoping for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That'd be great. They deserve it.
Yeah, you've recorded with a lot of great people, and you've done a lot of great recordings with Eurythmics, and I know Rex and I are just absolutely thrilled to have been able to talk to you today. You don't know what a thrill it is. It really is for us. It's a real thrill.
It's been a thrill for me to tell you personally how much I appreciate your wonderful harmonica playing, saxophone playing. I mean, I appreciate it. I just won't shut up about it, will I?
I'll mention it to Janice when I see her next week. You know, if you probably got a way to get in touch with her already, or I don't know.
You put in a good word for us and tell Jonice that she needs to be our guest, because
no worries.
We do talk to Jonice on Facebook and that kind of stuff, and I think she is an absolute sweetheart.
Oh, she's great. She's funny too. She's a funny girl. You know.
All right, excellent. Jenny,
you want to hear a real quick Janice story?
I absolutely want to hear a good Janice.
Man, we went some crazy places, man. We were in Tel Aviv, right? And nothing against the Israeli people. I want to say that first here. But down there, the Israelis and the Arabs, I'll just say it's no wonder that they've been fighting for thousands of years, because they're all so damn rude to each other. So, Janice is a pretty stunning woman, to say the least. And she's tall, and then she had her hair way up, and she's a beautiful black woman. And some of these old Israeli women were, I don't know, taken aback or something. But I guess they'd been like, apparently, that we're at this nice hotel, the Daniel Hotel, one of the best hotels at the time, and right by the beach in Tel Aviv. And I would just come down, and I guess they had been going, like just rudely doing things like that, like laughing at her as she walked around town or in the hotel and things. And I guess she'd had enough. And at the point I walked up, she was ready. She was just going, giving them the DC. She's from DC, but she'd been living in Paris a long time. She'd been living, speaks fluent French, and she'd been living in Paris before we met her, in 86. And she was letting them have it. And I mean, I had to pull her away because she was going to them, how do you like it? That's going Chinese. Come here. Because it looked like it was going to get physical. And they deserved it. They were so mean and rude to her. Wow. It was just not that, the whole people, but those few idiots were like really bad people, to her. But she did. You can push Janice so far, man, but don't push her over the line, man. She'll let you have it.
Well, I'm glad you're going to get to see Janice in a couple of weeks. I think that's
man, me too, man. I really love that girl.
That's great.
Yeah,
Jimmy, do you want to take us out?
We'll take some pictures. What do you need? I'm sorry.
Do you want to take us out? Do you want to take us out a little bit on your harmonica?
Yeah,
good with you, Rex?
Yeah,
Rex, is that good with you?
Yeah. Why don't we kind of, wrap it up. And then when he's done playing, I'll just kind of turn it off.
All right.
All right, guys. It's
Thank
been my
you, Jimmy.
pleasure, man.
Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Thank you so much.
Adios, amigos.
Thank you.
Thanks again. Thanks
All right.
again.